Hi, everyone. I would like you today to meet David Schwartz, CEO and owner of Franchise Clique. David, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Glad to be here.
Well, David, I say Franchise Clique, but I mean, you have several brands and several websites, and I've actually personally bought leads from I think all of them, or at least the main three.
Yes, we do. We actually have six companies in our network. We've got Franchise Click, we've got franchisebuy.com, veteransfranchise.com, multi-unit which I'll get to in a second, callverifiedleads.com. And those are our platforms that we've created not to for more attracting certain audiences for certain franchisors or franchise consultants. We launched Multi-Unit Franchise, which is our hottest program at the present time. We actually engage with, I talked about to you earlier, that we work with about 300 franchise systems, high-level systems like Slim Chickens or Inspire Brands or Fajita Pete's, and we do outbound reach to them. So we do outbound reach to franchisees that we've qualified over the last 16 years, and we present franchisees as opportunities to these brands. So we develop engaging scripts. We do an outbound reach. We do reach through LinkedIn and a few other channels. But then we do a really high level handoff for a franchisor or even a franchise consultant if they're looking to target franchisees. But that's our hottest program at this point. I actually spend probably about 70-80% of my day doing multiunitfranchise.com.
hmm Well, I know that I've worked with you guys over the last 5 years, and it's always been profitable. And I really like how you guys personalize things. One of the things is like if you have certain financial requirements, whatever it is, you guys can usually accommodate that, which is astonishing to me that you have the ability to segment your audience and target these things. But it's always been great. Can you talk about the different ways that people can qualify their audience and select what they're looking for?
Yeah, so you mentioned we maintain a certain minimum liquidity with every lead that we send out. So we don't provide a maximum because there is a wheelhouse where people are qualified or people who are in pain and need to make decisions. We did make a few changes over the last year or so. Some of the data that we call on to start with, based on zip codes and a few other characteristics, we've decided not to call as many of those and stick with the formulas of people in high level areas, where there's more liquidity, where there's more fluent people. And calling higher level data obviously produces better candidates, better business acumens. Those translate into better leads. But yeah, so typically we're trying to, at a high level, qualify people the best way possible. So we go through a 25 to 26 question script. And then that's about it. As I mentioned, we spend 3 to 6 minutes with a candidate, and then it's off to the next franchise consultant, period. There's really not a lot of gray area there. As long as they're maintaining a liquidity of 100,000 plus and a net worth of 250,000 plus or above that, we feel like people are at least checking off one of the boxes is they actually have money or they say they have money on paper.
Right. And then so when you do that, I have worked with these leads myself, and I have found certain ways that I'm able to connect with them. I personally will call them, email them. Well, not always email them, but I try. But I'll call them, leave a voicemail every time because I figure if don't leave a voicemail, it looks like a spammy number. And then I text them. And I'm surprised at the responsiveness of texting. What have you found with helping people connect with these leads once they receive them?
So that's a great question. A lot of people we've worked with, they've been trained a certain way. So the ones who have got experience basically have, like yourself, they've got their own systematic way of following up with leads. Newer franchise consultants just getting into it definitely need some assistance in how to handle some of those. We generally say follow the rules that you're trained with, but I don't think a lead's ever dead if they haven't responded. Some people just continuously get leads sent to them and they just forget about the leads that were sent before. So I think they should always have a certain pipeline of people to go back and drip against and go through a kind of a lateral follow-up strategy with them. But I say, whatever you train, text, email, whatever gets a contact, as long as it's professional and as long as it's a way to engage them for the right reason, I don't think there's any wrong way of doing it.
Right. And I have found that if I've connected with a lead, I'll definitely put them in on a at least at the minimum a 1 to 2 times a year check-in. And surprisingly, that does continuously pull up a stream of people from the past that already know me that are like, "Hey Lance, yeah, I would like to talk." And as long as those emails are conversational, like you're actually writing it to them right now, like, you know,
Yeah.
"Hey, first name, how's it going? It's been a while." And then like that, people respond really well um, to that.
They do. People don't people don't realize how important it is to be personable with candidates. They're a stranger. I mean, you may have reached out to them 15 times in various methods, but they are a stranger. You don't know who they are. You have never sat down and had a conversation, had a cup of coffee with them, and said, "Hey, here's the deal. Here's what I offer. I represent these many brands, et cetera, et cetera." It should be conversational. It should be relationship building. And at the end of the day, that's you're trying to build a relationship with somebody who's going to evident who's going to work with you and who's going to want to take your advice to start a business.
Right. And one of the things that I've noticed is that you, sometimes people they don't know who you are, like you said, so they're a little nervous, or maybe they were interested but not in the mindset that they were going to talk to somebody right away. So you really have to like warm them up and connect with them because they could have a life event. I've had everything you could imagine happen to me when I'm working with leads. I've had somebody get cancer and pass away. I've had family members die, car accidents, things changing, new jobs. And sometimes people disappear for a while, but then they come back. So it's like as long as you're friendly and you don't over contact them, I found that people, they come through, just not at your timing, but at their timing.
No question. A very simple email. Sorry to hear, if something there's a tragedy or something, or everybody's got a life that they're living, and everybody's got their family, and so things happen. But if you engage people the right way and politely give them their space and approach them back when the time's right, that's how you should work it.
And for me, I've also found when I went back through my numbers and I looked at the leads that went through and I looked at the deals that I've done, I found that I only really buy leads in chunks of like 100 at a time or more because when I looked at it, there's bubbles where a group of people will start going through and they're good clients. And then there's some that kind of ignore me. And you just never know where those random people out of your leads are going to turn into clients. And so I've always wanted a big enough subset to where, I catch some of those good people, I think, because I have found times where I had a good string of, it just nothing happened, but then all of a sudden I had a string where it was like back to back to back of awesome people. So what have you found over the years?
So I tell this to people. I try to be as direct with new clients. One of the things that I think everybody is always looking over their shoulder at what's the next lead source? Where can I get my lead? But they always think there's a golden goose out there, and sometimes the golden goose is right in front of them, and sometimes they're always thinking 10 steps ahead besides what's at task. So our most successful clients are the ones who just work with us long term. They've taken the time to get their deal or two done to start with. Once they get those couple of deals started, they have budget to be flexible, and they can even apply it to other resources out there. And that provides even more budget, and it keeps their business afloat. It keeps them in a good state of mind about having success in this space. And it continues to open more doors and more doors and more doors. And it's really important because this is just about consistency in getting a lead, just one good lead every day. You don't have to get 100. One good lead every day, Monday through Friday. Work them effectively, and at the end of a certain time period, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, sometimes 5 months, you'll have your deal sitting there. It will happen as long as you're consistent. And it's just a lot of franchise consultants are, I'm going to go try something else. I'm going to do something different. I've got my colleagues in my little group who are using this source. And it's like, well, they're having success with that source, whether it's us or another group, and there's great groups out there. They're having success because they've been with that group for 3 years, and that's why they have their deals. And that's the way it goes sometimes.
I agree. I work with the person on your team when I buy leads through you guys, Guy, and I always tell him he's the best guy I know. And and he's awesome. But what I will do is I communicate with him starting on week one, once or twice a week, and I let him know here's the story of what's happening with these leads. Here's what's going on because I know that he gets them from different places, and if I don't communicate, he can't adjust. He's going to assume everything is okay. So what I don't want to do is just let it run and kind of go, oh, this isn't working out for me, and then just kind of keep it to myself and let it run and keep it to myself. And all of a sudden, I'm like, Guy, I'm so frustrated right now. And he's like, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's true.
So I communicate. I communicate politely, but I communicate early and often and consistently. And then he's able to change things and dial them in. And we've switched to different web properties you guys have, and we just found the ones. And then once I have it, I found that if I shut them off and turn them on, I create lags. I create all of a sudden there's this big lag where I didn't
Yeah,
have leads for a couple weeks or a month or a couple months or whatever, and that creates pockets where there's no new people coming into the funnel. So like you said, to stay consistent is where I started getting good results, but I've also found that you have to communicate. You can't just turn something on because it's not like this commodity. They're dialing it into you and what you're looking for because of all that personalization that you guys do. So yeah, have you found that to
Miss.
be normal?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we see, and it's hard to communicate, is there's so much missed opportunity every day. Every day we probably have an additional, I don't know what the exact number is, probably close to 200 franchise candidates that we've qualified that sit in what we call a bucket. And it's not that we don't have enough customers. We have over 100 plus franchise consultants, probably over 150 every day that get leads from us. But there is another 100 candidates or 200 candidates every day that could be in somebody else's pipeline, and some of those people will close. And that's a hard thing for us. It's kind of the nature of the business. Sometimes we have excess numbers, and sometimes we don't. This year, it's been interesting. We've seen more people come to us looking to buy leads, but at the same point, the current clients, they just don't renew as quickly as they need to. They kind of take time to make that decision. And in the past, we've seen people just renewing consistently every month, etc.
Yeah, so you have that opportunity and people
Mhm.
aren't always there to take advantage of it. Any stories of companies where they were looking for leads, started working with you guys, and just found what they're looking for? I know myself, I can say that I've done very well with you guys over the years, but it wasn't, again, I had to work to dial things in. It didn't happen overnight.
We've had some good success stories. Best success story we've ever had is I had a client who was testing us. This is going back about 6 years ago, and he was very started with us. He's like, listen, I need to get at least a deal or two out of the first 100 leads or so. He ended up getting, I think, two deals out of the first 100 leads, and we sat down and talked about it. He really wasn't happy with that result. He actually, I think he wanted more. So I gave him a bulletproof plan. I said, if you're playing roulette and you wanted to, or craps, and if best thing you could do is take some budget and spread it out on over all of our different properties, all of our different programs we offer, our Calendly book leads, our executive recorded leads, standard premium, veteran leads, etc. And I arranged it so he'd be on top of all of our inventory. Out of his next 100 leads, the consultant closed 26 people out of 100.
By
And
testing
I
it
think
out.
and I think about 20% of them opened between 3 and 5 units, so 3 packs and 5 packs. Um, he was very happy, obviously, with those results. But I had formulated this way for him to get the best inventory, and he closed a lot of deals, and probably a lot of that is a little bit of luck as well. But after that point, he wanted to tweak it so much because he felt like he could improve on that incredible number, that the tweaks he made took away from all the chemistry and all the different things, all the innuendos we were doing with getting him set up, with being here and there, and this is what you need to be doing. That the next 100 leads, he got two deals. And then the next 100 leads, he got 0 deals because he continuously wanted to tweak something that I told him not to tweak. I said, this is how this works. This is what you need to do. Can't guarantee you're going to get where you were. And then at this point, we don't work with them. So take advice from the people who know best.
Right, because you guys know your inventory, you know what you're doing. So,
We do. We want to put every client in good hands. Maybe not that great of hands, but as best as possible. We want you to close as many deals as possible.
right. Well, how long does it typically take for someone to get started, getting leads from you guys, and then that whole tweaking process, you know?
So if you have like a CRM integration, that can take a day or so, but we get things going pretty quickly. So typical client we can onboard just in a day or two, not too long. And then tweaking, you got to get about 10 to 20 leads for us to tweak something. Pretty much 80-90% of franchise consultants, they do it pretty much the same way, but there is a
Mhm.
percentage that have been doing it for a while and they want things done a certain way. So those just take a little bit more time to cater to.
Yeah, I think when I set up, the hardest part for me was just setting up my email parser to pull them into my CRM. So, and
Yeah.
that was on my side. Well, perfect. Is there anything that they can do to speed up the process when getting started on their side?
Yeah, send in their paperwork. Well, actually, so all joking aside, we it took us years to do this, and I don't know why we waited so long, but we invested in a Dropbox sign, hello sign, and it's a very minimal, the most minimal investment we make in anything we do here, and it's increased our contract to close rate by about 40%, just because the simplicity of them just clicking, auto signing, and sending back to us is done automatically. So that's been a very good technology, which has been around forever. But it's just something we've implemented that's brought in people, and it's got people signed because people sit on it because they just sit on things. They're just very complacent.
Yeah, well, that friction makes sense. I mean, a lot of people can think about that process. Something as simple as printing it out and signing it versus clicking and signing, removing that friction just, added, improved things by 40%. That goes through all your business processes. People could learn from that. You just got to keep it very simple. And I remember manually printing out an agreement with you guys, signing it, sending it back. I've been part of that.
Yeah, it's just and it's a little more professional when you do it that way. But
Mhm.
some of our biggest challenges, and I didn't look before the call, but we probably have about, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 600 proposals in the last calendar year to franchise consultants across the space. That could be on the high end. It's probably 400 to 600. So just the interest level, and I can tell you probably 20% we've sent a contract to that they just sit on it. They just sit, or they just end up leaving the space. So a lot of people, they used a provider, didn't go well. They spent all this money plus becoming a franchise consultant, didn't do it correctly, and then they leave the space, and that's that. And it's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
it's hard. I know that
Yeah,
when I was starting and learning it out, learning how to do it's hard. It's definitely it's not a guaranteed thing. You got to work hard, and the biggest thing I found is you have to have a thick pipeline. You can't be having, just a few leads going in there because
yeah,
things get all the way to the end and can fall apart, and
yeah.
you got to get your hours and mileage of working with people to really understand how to work with clients, and you got to know which brands to send them to. There's some brands that if you're not picking out personalized to that client, that's something that they would actually want, it's not going to work. And if you're taking it to some companies that have a lower ability to close, you're also going to struggle because they're basically not going to be taken care of in the way that they need to be taken care of to finish the race.
True, and it's got a little more competitive in the space. So there's a lot of activity, and even on the franchisor level, some brands get territory checks. They can get 50 territory checks, on certain popular brands that do a lot of outbound sale. they can get 50 territory checks, a week or a day, depending upon the brand. So that can provide challenges for even the franchisors to keep up with the demand. And on the other end, it's getting somebody registered within a brand that could really slow down the pace, of a candidate, and that all that timing thing that everybody talks about. That's real world stuff.
Hmm. Well, I would say I've used Franchise Clique with David. I've worked with several other different properties. It's always been profitable for me. I've always enjoyed it, but I do communicate early and often on the success of each of my leads so that I dial it in. But if you're interested in that, you can go to the button next to this video and reach out to David, and they'll help you. David, anything else you want to say?
Um, One of the, just getting on that, we try to do a good job on the front end. I think most of the challenges people have, like they work with non-verified solutions, and they get leads and they have to deal with riffraff of bad phone numbers and emails and people who haven't gone through. Don't overthink when somebody goes through a 3 to 5 minute qualification process. We call it a phone survey. Those people are very unique, that they actually are interested enough to actually even sit through that, to answer personal questions the first time you get on the phone with somebody. Those typically provide the better contact rates. They process a little better, and they're only going to yield a little bit better sales percentage, but they do yield a better sales percentage at the end of the day.
Hmm. Yep, I agree. And you got to call people right away. And I always do surround sound, an email, a voicemail, and a text all helps for
Yeah,
sure.
no question.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.